Although Jews are widely recognized as a single nation, this nation is actually composed of multiple distinct ethnic groups. They are considered Jewish because of their shared religion, Judaism, and common cultural traditions and history. With the rise of Zionism, particularly after the establishment of the State of Israel, millions of Jews from around the world immigrated to Israel. These Jews, coming from diverse countries and regions, differ significantly in terms of skin color, appearance, language, and lifestyle. In Israel, one can see blonde-haired, blue-eyed European Jews, as well as Middle Eastern Jews whose appearance closely resembles that of Arabs, dark-skinned Indian Jews, and black Ethiopian Jews from Africa. Jews are generally classified into two main categories, Ashkenazi and Sephardi, corresponding roughly to Western and Eastern Jews. Defining the groups, strictly speaking, Sephardi originally referred to Jews living in medieval Spain. After Christian forces conquered Spain in the 15th century, these Jews were expelled and dispersed along the Mediterranean coast. Ashkenazi originally referred to Jews living in Germany and Eastern Europe. Today, however, the terms have broadened. Ashkenazi is commonly used for all Jews from Europe and the Americas. Meanwhile, Jews from Asia and Africa are often collectively referred to as Sephardi. However, Jews from Iraq, Yemen, India, Ethiopia, and other regions have no historical connection to Spain. They have lived in their respective regions since ancient times. The more accurate term for these groups is Mizrahi, Eastern ones. Therefore, distinguishing them as European American, Ashkenazi, and Asian African, Mizrahi/Sephardi, is often the most practical sociological distinction. Different paths to Israel. Although both groups maintain their identity through religion, they have distinct rituals and traditions. Ashkenazi Jews. Many immigrated driven by Zionist ideology or fled anti-Semitic persecution in Tsarist Russia and the Holocaust in World War II. Some voluntarily gave up comfortable lives in the West to build the Jewish state. Mizrahi Jews. Most migrated due to the collapse of their communities following the establishment of Israel. Facing expulsion, violence, or hostile environments in Arab and Islamic countries, they fled to Israel as refugees. Ethiopian Jews. Tens of thousands migrated not just for economic reasons, but driven by a deep religious yearning to return to Zion, often facing famine and civil war to reach Israel. The socioeconomic gap. From the outset, a noticeable gap existed. European Jews generally arrived with higher education levels and modern skills, enabling them to secure white-collar jobs and leadership positions. In contrast, many Asian and African Jews arrived with lower formal education levels and large families, forcing them into lower-paying manual labor. Historical circumstances amplified this disparity. Wealthier North African Jewish families often chose to emigrate to France, while poorer families had no choice but to move to Israel. In the 1980s, statistics showed that only 16% of Asian and African Jews had received higher education, compared to 56% of European and American Jews, creating a cycle of low income and lower social status. Political hegemony and the 1977 shift. Historically, the Zionist movement was born in Europe. Consequently, the early settlers and the state's founding elite were primarily Ashkenazi. For the first 3 decades, the government, military, and economy were dominated by Eastern European Jews, e.g., Prime Ministers Ben-Gurion, Meir, Rabin. Mizrahi Jews, despite being a demographic powerhouse, felt marginalized and culturally suppressed by the establishment's paternalistic attitude. This dissatisfaction boiled over in the political arena. Feeling alienated by the ruling Labour Party, Mizrahi Jews shifted their support to the opposition Likud party. The historic victory of Menachem Begin in 1977 was largely fueled by the Eastern vote. By the 1980s, Likud relied on at least 2/3 of the Eastern Jewish vote. However, in the 1992 elections, economic dissatisfaction caused some Eastern voters to shift away from Likud. contributing to the Labour Party's temporary return to power under Yitzhak Rabin. The two Israels sociologists often referred to this phenomenon as two Israels. The first Israel, predominantly Ashkenazi, secular, residing in affluent areas of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and dominating the cultural and academic elite. The second Israel, predominantly Mizrahi/Sephardi, traditional, residing in peripheral development towns like Beersheba and Ashkelon, and working-class neighborhoods. Eastern Jews expressed their dissatisfaction through protest movements, such as the Israeli Black Panthers in the 1970s, and by forming their own political parties, most notably Shas, a religious party representing Sephardi interests. The melting pot policy versus reality. The Israeli government championed a melting pot policy. Ben-Gurion famously stated, "We must melt this mixture down and cast it anew." The state attempted to force integration through the army, Hebrew education, and mixed housing. However, forced integration often backfired. In the early decades, cultural friction was high. While mixed marriages have increased significantly in recent years, historically, there was resistance. In the mid-20th century, intermarriage rates were low, and social tensions were palpable. Conclusion: a changing society. Despite the historical divides, the landscape is changing. Many Eastern Jews have risen to the elite. Figures like 5th President Yitzhak Navon, Jerusalem-born Sephardi, 8th President Moshe Katsav, Iranian-born, and former IDF Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot, Moroccan descent, demonstrate this upward mobility. Furthermore, the binary definition of two Israels was shattered in the 1990s. By the arrival of over 1 million immigrants from the former Soviet Union, creating a powerful third demographic bloc. Today, while economic gaps persist, the sharp cultural lines are blurring. Intermarriage between Ashkenazi and Mizrahi Jews is now common, estimated at over 25% and rising, creating a new generation of mixed Israelis. Mizrahi culture, particularly in music and food, has moved from the margins to become the mainstream culture of modern Israel. While tensions remain, the melting pot is slowly, naturally, finally beginning to work.